My name is Sienna. I'm 36. Last Memorial Day, my younger sister stood up in front of 25 of our relatives, raised her glass, and called me a desperate woman who never grew out of broke. My mother clapped. I waited. Then I stood up, lifted my glass of water, and said 11 words. And 25 people forgot how to swallow. But to understand those 11 words, you have to go back 6 months earlier, to a folder I carried for 7 months, and never opened in front of anyone. I should tell you who I am before I tell you what I did. I am the daughter my mother introduces second, the one who carries the cooler in, the one who refills the ice chest when nobody else notices it's empty. I am also, and this part my mother did not know for 10 years, the court-appointed executor of my grandmother's estate, the one who has been watching the numbers, the one who has been counting since November. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you to Memorial Day morning. 6 a.m. Vermont, a bowl of my grandmother's potato salad, and a folder no one was ready to open yet. I had measured the mayonnaise the night before. I had ironed the navy cotton dress the night before. My mother once told me navy made me look like a bank teller. I remembered the comment for 14 years. I bought the dress anyway. At the bottom of my canvas tote, sealed in an inner pocket, was a brown paper folder. I had checked it twice that week. I did not check it again. The dill went in last. My grandmother always said dill goes in last, so it doesn't bruise. I packed the cooler. I packed the folder. I parked where I could leave first. I had learned that years ago. There were already 11 cars in the gravel turnaround when I arrived. My mother saw Tessa pull up before she saw me. My sister stepped out of a white Mercedes, the kind with leather that smells like a hotel lobby. White linen dress. White sunglasses. She looked like a magazine someone had folded over. "There's my star," my mother said. And ran. She ran, a 65-year-old woman with a knee replacement, across the gravel to wrap her arms around the daughter in white. My father was on the porch. He nodded at me. He did not stand up. I carried the cooler to the house. The bowl was heavy. The folder was heavier. By 10:15, Tessa was telling the Tuscany story. "I just took Mom and Dad to Tuscany," she said. "They were so worn down from the year. I told Brett, the parents come first." A great aunt made the appropriate sound. 2 cousins murmured. The truth, which a woman named Phyllis Crane had shown me in a printed bank statement 6 weeks earlier, was that my parents had paid for the trip themselves. Tessa had clicked a button on a booking site. The button had been linked to my mother's debit card. I had given up correcting Tessa in public around the time I turned 30. Then my phone buzzed. I stepped behind the porch screen. The notification was from the trust account I managed for my grandmother's estate. The trust where my parents kept their secondary retirement money. A withdrawal had been flagged. $4,200. The account holder of record had signed it. The signature line read, Tessa Hewitt Merrick. 14 withdrawals in 18 months. This one made 14. I locked my phone. I took one slow breath that smelled of charcoal smoke from across the dock. I went back outside. I smiled at my mother as she walked past me. She smiled back without breaking stride. She was on her way to a group photo by the dock. She did not call me over. At 11:40, Tessa picked up a butter knife and tapped it twice against her glass. The conversations didn't stop all at once. They petered out the way a porch light dims before a storm. Tessa stood at the head of the long table, white linen catching the noon sun, her glass catching it too. "I want to make a toast," she said. A few cousins lifted their drinks. My father took a slow sip of his beer. "To my big sister." She smiled. The smile was practiced. "To the one who always shows up broke, needy, and still hoping to matter." My mother laughed. Not politely. A real one. She clapped. 3 quick taps against her thigh. My father snorted. Brett's mouth twitched into something almost like a grin. A first cousin covered her mouth and stared at the ground. Nothing in me moved. The lake behind the dock did not move. The wind did not move. A dragonfly hovering above the salt and pepper shakers did not move. I set my plate down. I stood up. I lifted the glass of water I had been nursing for 40 minutes. I'd like to return the toast. 24 heads turned. I let one breath go. To the desperate one, who borrowed $18,000 from Mom and Dad's retirement account in March. Then bought a Mercedes. Nobody breathed. Tessa's wine glass tilted in her hand. Red wine ran down the front of her white linen dress. She did not stop it. She did not blink. My mother's hand, the hand that had just clapped, hung frozen in the air, halfway to her collarbone. My father set his beer down very slowly, like a man diffusing something. The dragonfly went somewhere else. I lifted my drink to my mouth, took one small swallow, set the glass back on the table. The water was warm now. It tasted like nothing. I sat down. I picked up my plate. I returned to the potato salad I had not yet eaten any of. If you've ever said a quiet truth in a loud room, you know what the next 10 seconds feel like. You know how sound comes back strange. Tap the like button if this story is one you needed to hear. And tell me in the comments, one word, where you're watching from. I read every single one. Tessa recovered first. She always does. She made a sound that was supposed to be a laugh. It caught in her throat and came out as a cough. Wow, Sienna. That's quite the joke. I did not look up from my plate. See, my mother said. The clap was gone from her voice now. That's enough. This is a family event. Sit down, my father said to no one in particular. I was already sitting. So was Tessa. Aunt Marina, from the corner where she had been rearranging seltzer cans in a way that fooled exactly nobody, set her hands on her hips. I think we should bring out the cake. She said it the way a fire chief tells a crowd to step back. By 7 the next morning, the Hewitt extended family group chat, 217 members, a long history of cookie recipes, had a new top message. Tessa had posted it at 6:14 a.m. 3 crying emojis. 1 prayer hands. Family. Sienna had a kind of meltdown at the picnic yesterday. She's been saying weird things about Mom's accounts. Please send Mom and Dad some love today. They're really shaken. I'm worried about my sister. Please pray with me. Aunts I had not spoken to since Easter began calling. I let 3 calls go to voicemail. My mother called at 8:40 while I was rinsing the pitcher. No greeting. You owe your sister a public apology. Posted in the chat today. I'm not the one who needs to apologize, Mom. You humiliated her in front of the entire family. She humiliated me first, Mom. I just brought numbers. Don't use that tone with me. I'm not coming to dinner Wednesday. She hung up before I did. I made my coffee. I sat at the kitchen table. The morning doves were back in the eave. I opened the brown folder. I printed Tessa's group chat post. I added it to the top. Public moves leave records. Tessa had never quite understood that part. It was how she had always lost. Phyllis Crane had worked for our family for 23 years. She was 64. Gray-haired. Brown sweater. Half glasses. Her office was in the back of a building in Burlington that used to be a pharmacy, then a tax preparer, and was now divided by drywall my father had once helped install in 1998. She slid a single printed page across her desk. A timeline. 14 rows. Each row is a withdrawal from your parents' Trustbee account, she said. Total, she tapped the bottom of the page, $86,400. I read it twice. Then she slid a second page. The most recent transaction. Last week. $15,000, wired to an LLC in Albany. Gravesend Holdings LLC. What is it? That part I haven't confirmed yet. The state filings list a registered agent in upstate New York. No operating address. I have a name. I haven't called. I'll drive over Thursday. I stayed quiet for a moment. The office smelled like warm paper and the inside of a coffee thermos. Phyllis. The power of attorney. She nodded. Your parents signed it last June. There's a clause in there I didn't write and didn't see when they brought it to me to file. Discretionary management of assets, including reallocation. That clause wasn't in the version Mom showed me last fall. I have both versions, she said. The original. And the amendment. I made copies the moment I noticed. I let that breath go. Phyllis was not angry on my behalf. Phyllis was organized. In my family, that was rarer than love. I drove to Albany on Thursday. Gravesend Holdings LLC operated out of a single office above a bagel shop and a tax preparer. The bagel shop smelled like butter at 10 in the morning. The stairs creaked. The receptionist was reading a paperback when I walked in. I don't have an appointment, I said. I'm trying to confirm whether an entity is being serviced here. The entity is in my sister's name. She set the book face down on the desk. We can't share details on accounts. But I can confirm whether or not we have a relationship. I gave her Tessa's name. She typed. She paused. She read. There's an active account. I can't tell you specifics, but yes, the account is in active servicing. The balance is significant. Define significant. She looked at me kindly. She closed the screen. I can't, ma'am. I'm sorry. I called Phyllis from the parking lot. She put me on hold for 9 minutes. When she came back, her voice was very calm. $217,000, she said. Consumer credit consolidation. Active for 5 years. The Mercedes is leased through a separate company, but the lease payments have been pulled from a card that's now in this consolidation. I let one full breath out. She's been drowning, I said. She's been drowning, Phyllis said. And pulling Carol and Doug under, because she didn't know how to swim alone. I sat in that parking lot for 20 more minutes after the call ended. I did not cry. I had cried about Tessa 11 years ago, after a different fight, and I had decided then that crying about Tessa was a tax I was no longer paying. I opened a small spiral notebook from my glove box. I wrote a list of names. Everyone in our family Tessa might have asked for money. The shape of the names on the page looked like a hand. If you're watching this right now, and you have someone in your life who's slowly emptying everything around them, a sister, a brother, sometimes even a parent, and you've been the only one to notice, I want you to do something for me. Just pause for a second. Tap the like button. It helps stories like this one find the people who need to hear them. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Because the next part, what I did with the folder, and what happened when I walked into that lake house at 5 in the morning, that's what this whole story has been building toward. Comment one word. Stay. Just so I know you're still with me. 2 weeks before the lake house meeting, my mother called me at my desk. We need a family meeting, all of us. The lake house, Saturday the week after next, 11 in the morning. We are going to settle this once and for all. I closed the listing report I had been reading. All right, Mom. You will be respectful, she said. Your father agrees. I will be exactly the daughter you raised. She missed the meaning. She always did. My father texted me 11 minutes later. Bring whatever you need to say. Be respectful. He used a period. He never used periods. I knew immediately what the meeting was. Tessa was setting a trap. She was forcing a confrontation before I had everything in front of me. She was betting I'd walk in with my mouth open and my folder thin. She was hoping I'd lose my temper. She was reading me as the old version. The version that had not been counting since November. I called Phyllis at 1 p.m. 11 days, I said. Family meeting. The lake house. Phyllis was quiet for 2 seconds. All right. I'll clear the calendar. You print the originals. I'll print the certified copies. Marina will bring her amendment. We will have everything on that table by 10:50. Good. Sienna. She paused. Once you put this in front of them, you cannot take it back. I know, just checking. On Tuesday before the meeting, Phyllis, Marina, and I sat at my conference table. The fluorescent overheads were off. I had switched them off. I wanted the table to feel like a kitchen table. People tell the truth at kitchen tables. 3 folders, labeled in Sharpie. Folder 1, the timeline. 14 withdrawals, $86,400. Folder 2, the power of attorney. The original. The amendment with the forged clause. The Albany LLC filings. The Mercedes lease. The $217,000 consolidation account. Folder 3, Caleb's screenshots. The group chat post. The trust amendment my grandmother had signed 10 years ago. We sat without speaking. Once you put this in front of them, Phyllis said, the relationships do not return to the version they were before this morning. You understand? I understand. Even if your sister apologizes. Marina said, the version of the family that lived in the not knowing is gone. I understand. I had thought about it for 6 months. On the back roads. In the bathroom mirror. In the bagel shop parking lot. In the diner over clam chowder. The alternative was that my parents would be broke in 14 months. The alternative was that my father would die in 8 years and discover in the last month of his life that the retirement he had worked 43 years to build had been spent on credit card interest. That was not an alternative. I printed a 4th folder. What's that one for? Marina said. For Tessa. Marina looked at me a long time. That's a kindness she has not earned. I know, I said. My phone rang at 4:07 in the morning. 2 days before the meeting. It was my father. My father did not call me. In 2 years he had sent me 4 text messages, all about plumbing. I sat up in the dark. I did not turn on the lamp. Sigh. His voice did something I had never heard it do. It trembled. Dad, are you okay? I went through the safe last night. I couldn't sleep, the bonds. The Series I bonds your grandmother bought me in 1986. They're not where I left them. I waited. I called the bank when they opened this morning. They were cashed last Tuesday. $10,400. The signature looks like mine. It is not mine. I pressed my hand against my forehead. Dad, don't tell Mom yet. I will be there in the morning. I will bring everything. We will go through it together. Do not move anything else in that safe. All right. Yes. You did the right thing telling me first. He did not answer. He hung up. I sat at the edge of the bed in the dark for 40 more minutes. I did not move. I did not cry. The clock on the dresser made its small, unkind tick. Tessa had accelerated. She was no longer skimming the retirement account. She was gutting the safe. I packed the car at 5 a.m. The folders went into the back seat in a paper grocery bag. Because a paper grocery bag does not look like anything. The lights in my kitchen threw a pale rectangle across the gravel. I drove to the lake house in the dark, fog along Route 7, a dairy farm at 5:20 with its barn lights already on. Someone in there had been up since 4. Someone in any small farming town in Vermont is always up since 4. I was going to be one of those people now. I arrived 2 hours before the meeting. I let myself in through the side door. I had had a spare key for 15 years. The house was quiet. Except, there was movement in the den. The small room off the kitchen where my father kept the safe. The door was partly open. I walked in. Tessa was kneeling on the rug. The safe was open. A cardboard carton labeled in my mother's blue Sharpie, Mom's papers, sat on the desk above her. 3 envelopes had been pulled out and laid on the floor. She looked up. Her eyes moved very fast across my face, looking for surprise. Looking for an opening. What are you doing here this early? I'll handle this. I stepped past her, took the carton off the desk, and set it in the leather chair. I closed the safe door. Then I reached into my tote. I pulled out the 4th folder, the one I had printed Tuesday at 11:40 at night. I set it in front of her on the desk. Read this before they get here. So you're not surprised. She looked at the folder. She did not pick it up. Her hand floated near it for 1 full second. See. Read it. You have 2 hours. I went to the kitchen. I made coffee. I sat on the porch with 1 mug. I did not look back through the screen door. I did not need to. I could hear, through the still Vermont morning air, the very specific sound of a manila folder being opened. She used to call my quiet a weakness. That morning my quiet was the loudest thing in the room. She heard it for the first time in 32 years. Her hands shook against the paper. Caleb arrived first. He had flown in from Portland Friday night. He walked across the gravel and hugged me without saying anything. He smelled like coffee and a different time zone. How bad? It's bad. Are you ready? Yes. He nodded once and went inside to find our father. Aunt Marina and Phyllis arrived at 10:50. My mother came out of the bedroom in a yellow blouse that did not match her face. She was carrying a tray of croissants with the bakery sticker still half attached. It's a family meeting, not a board meeting, she said. Her voice had a brittle cheer. My father was already at the head of the dining table. His coffee cup had not been refilled since 7 a.m. His face was gray. I placed the 3 numbered folders down the center of the table. Folder 1 in front of my mother. Folder 2 between my parents. Folder 3 by Caleb. The 4th folder was already in the den. I left it there. Tessa looked up at me from her seat near the window. What is this? Her voice held one bright thread of rage. This is what you've been telling them I shouldn't see. Now I'm asking them to look. My father read the way he had always read contracts. Slowly, top to bottom. One finger pressed lightly to the edge of the page. My mother read over his shoulder for 30 seconds. Then took her own copy. Her color went out of her cheeks at the 2nd row of the timeline. This is wrong, she said. These must be. These are pulled directly from your statements, Carol, Phyllis said. Her voice was the same voice she used when explaining tax tables. I have worked for your family for 23 years. Every entry is verified against your own monthly mailings. The bank confirmed in writing on Tuesday. Tessa drew a sharp breath. Mom. Her voice cracked in the practiced place. She's twisting this. She's been jealous of me my whole life. You know she has. My father did not raise his head. Tessa, he said. Not loud. The way he had said my name when I was 8 and broke the glass cabinet in the dining room. Where's the Mercedes? She did not answer. Where's the money? She stood up. I'm not doing this. She turned. She walked toward the front door. Her sandals clicked on the wood. Marina reached the porch door first. She blocked it with her body. Tessa stopped on the 3rd step. Marina. Get out of my way. No. Marina did not raise her voice. She had never raised her voice in my entire life. She had a way of speaking that made other people feel as if they had raised theirs without meaning to. Tessa. Sit down. We are going to figure this out as a family. Or you are going to figure it out without one. Those are the choices. There is not a third one. There is not coming back later. The maple tree in the side yard, the one my father had planted when Tessa was born, made the small dry sound a maple makes in late June, when the wind is almost still. For 20 seconds, none of us breathed. Then Tessa's shoulders dropped 1 inch. The brightness in her eyes went somewhere I could not follow. She came back through the screen door. She sat in the chair next to Brett. Not where she had been sitting before, next to Brett. Brett did not look at her. He was reading folder 2. His face had gone gray in a way I had only ever seen on people who had just realized something about themselves they could not unrealize. My father asked the question very quietly. You used our retirement to pay your credit cards. Tessa was crying now, not performing it. The shoulders, the hitch in the breath, the way her hands flapped uselessly in front of her chest. These were the unfamiliar version. Tessa had been faking grief at family dinners since she was 12. I had always known the fake one. The real one looked nothing like it. I was going to pay it back, she said. You were going to pay our money back, my mother said. The line landed harder than my mother knew it would. Caleb spoke from across the table without looking up from folder 3. Tessa. I told you in February I couldn't co-sign for a reason. Tessa did not look at him. Brett set folder 2 down very carefully. He stood up. He walked into the kitchen. He did not come back. We could hear through the open doorway the running of the kitchen tap and the small sound of a man washing his hands very slowly. The hands in my family had always been the place men went when they had run out of words. I laid the 2 versions of the power of attorney side by side. Original on the left. Amendment on the right. I pointed at the paragraph in the middle of the right-hand page that did not appear in the left. My mother leaned in. She read it twice. Then she read it aloud. Slowly. Discretionary management of all assets, including reallocation, restructuring, and consolidation without further authorization. She looked up. I didn't agree to this. I didn't sign anything that said this. I know, Mom. Phyllis cleared her throat. It is not enforceable, now that you've identified it as forged. But the funds withdrawn under it are gone. Recovery requires either a repayment plan or civil action. My father lifted his eyes to Tessa. Did you write this in? She did not speak for several seconds. I wanted to help, she said. By stealing from us. I needed. Don't. He said it once. Don't tell me again about your need. She did not. The grandfather clock struck 11. My mother lifted her head. She looked at Tessa. Tessa, she said. Look at me. Tessa looked. I clapped. She paused. At the picnic, while you said those things to your sister. I clapped. I am ashamed of myself. Tessa flinched. Of all the things in that morning, that was the one she had not seen coming. None of us had. I clapped, my mother said again. For the last 20 years. I am ashamed of myself for that too. She looked at me. Her hand came across the table and rested briefly on mine. She did not say anything else. I let my mother's hand rest on mine for one full breath. Then I gently moved it. There was one more thing on the table, and I needed both hands free to put it there. I reached into the side pocket of my tote and pulled out the small envelope I had sealed in November. The one I had carried to every meeting, every picnic, every sleepless night, and never once opened in front of anyone. 7 months. I broke the seal. I laid 2 pages side by side on the table. Original power of attorney on the left. The forged amendment on the right. I pointed at the paragraph that didn't belong. Then I read, evenly, the way Phyllis would have read it. The handwritten sheet I had written the night before at my kitchen table, while ice melted slowly in my water glass. 1. The power of attorney is revoked today, with notarized signatures. Phyllis can complete the paperwork by Monday. 2. Phyllis takes over formal financial stewardship for both of you until either of you wishes otherwise. 3. Tessa enters a counseling program, 6 months minimum, for financial behavior. 4. Tessa enters a written repayment plan brokered by Phyllis. Terms negotiated within 30 days. 5. Tessa and I have no direct financial contact for 12 months. Personal contact resumes when she initiates. And when both of us are ready. I set the page down. That's the plan. My mother lifted the page in both hands and read it again by herself. Sienna, she said when she had finished. I am so sorry. Mom. I love you. We will talk about it later. Right now, please sign the revocation. Phyllis pulled the form from her bag. She had brought it. She had brought everything. My mother signed it. Her hand did not shake. She had stopped shaking somewhere between the timeline and the Albany papers. My father signed it after her. Tessa looked across the table at me. The crying had quieted. Her face had a stillness it hadn't had in a year. Sigh, she said. Her voice was very small. I don't know how to be your sister anymore. Neither do I said. But I am not your enemy. I am also not your bank. Get well. Then we will talk. I picked up the empty manila folders. I packed the original documents into an accordion file. I closed it. I put it in my tote. I walked through the porch door, down the steps, across the grass, and onto the dock. Aunt Marina was already there. She did not say anything. We stood on the dock and looked at the lake. 6 weeks later, I painted the inside of my office a color the can called First Frost. Off-white with a hint of green. The painter said it would look gray on cloudy days. It did. I liked it on cloudy days too. My mother called more than she ever had before. Short calls, 4 minutes, 5. One small question each time. Should she sign the new homeowner's rider? Did the gutter cleaner seem honest? Did I think the lawn looked tired this year? I answered each one briefly. We were not doing therapy. We were doing 4-minute phone calls. That was a beginning. My father started coming by the office on Wednesday afternoons for coffee. He would sit across from my desk, drink half a cup, and look out the window. He did not always speak. When he spoke, it was about contracts I was negotiating, or a bird he had seen on the drive. Once he asked what kind of paint I'd used on the walls. I told him. He nodded. Finished his coffee. Left. Caleb called every Sunday. We talked about his bicycle. About my cherry tomatoes. We did not talk about Tessa. Tessa did not call. Phyllis told me quietly that she was attending counseling. She had paid $400 in the first month against the repayment plan. She and Brett had filed a separation. That was her road. I did not pursue it. On a hot day at the end of July, Aunt Marina dropped off a small framed photograph at my office. My grandmother on the dock at the lake house. Sometime in the early 70s. She was laughing. I put the frame on my desk. In late August, I drove to the lake house alone. My parents were at Aunt Marina's for dinner. I let myself in through the side door. I carried a single chair down to the dock. A single glass. The bottle of white wine I had been saving since Christmas. A clean white napkin I had ironed that morning. I set the napkin on the boards. I poured one glass. I set the glass on the napkin. The lake at the end of August is a different lake. The water is darker. The pines smell stronger. The light goes gold for a long, slow 10 minutes before the sun goes down. I sat. I drank. I lifted my glass, the way I had lifted it last May. What I said then, to the desperate one, I did not finish the sentence. What I have been trying to say for 36 years to a family that did not want to hear it. She was not desperate. She was drowning. And once I called it by its actual name, she could not pretend to anyone, including herself, that the rope had not been there for years. Including the rope I had been holding by myself, standing in cold water up to my hips. I used to think family was a circle that included you whether you fit or not. I think now that family is a table you choose to sit at. And the right people are the ones who bring something to it. My table is smaller now. It is also steadier. If this story spoke to you, subscribe. There are more stories of women who learn to set a table on their own terms. Without apology. Without speeches. The next one is in the description below. And tell me in the comments, what was the hardest sentence you ever said quietly? I read every single one.